today started out with my stomach shaking. I'm not afraid to speak in front of people. That is not the reason. I don't know why. It comes randomly, it goes randomly. Cried 3 times randomly today for no reason. But support system, I've been on the phone with my friends, texting back and forth, and it's been helpful. I don't know why you came or why you're listening. You may struggle with mental illness, maybe your mom, your husband, your child, your cousin, your brother, your best friend, your spouse. You may be here because you work in the mental health field and you're just interested in people's stories. It means the world to me that you're sitting here. Every single time someone stands up to talk about their mental illness, they continue to break the stigma of mental health. We're not far from a time when people were thrown into cells and abandoned by their family and society. It's a conversation that's brave and it's important, and thank you for being here. I have a blog called getfreegourmet.com. I've had it for about 6 years or so. I have often talked about having bipolar on there. If you're interested, you can go on getfreegourmet.com and search bipolar for more information about my journey. First, and it's important that you understand that I'm not here to tell anyone how to deal with their mental illness. Everybody's journey is their own, and we're all dealing with our own struggles in our own way. And what's true and right for me may not be true and right for you, or the path that you should take. And I am not a medical professional. If you're struggling right now, I just hope that you understand that you're not alone, and somehow that you feel inspired. How did you know? People ask me that all the time. How did you know? How did you know? There were signs early on. When I was a teenager, my mom would come home and I had rearranged my room. I would have taken apart all of my furniture. I would have moved mattresses. It was like superhuman strength. It didn't occur to her that something might be wrong with me. She just thought that I just like rearranged my room, I guess. But when I got married, I do the same thing, but on a bigger scale. My husband would come home, and our den is now our dining room, and our dining room is now our den. If you could see my dining room table, you would understand that that would be a signal something is wrong with me, because it is a massively huge, heavy dining room table, and I would maneuver that through the house myself. And he would come home and be like, oh, well, I guess our house is rearranged now. There'd be projects all over the house that I'd started and didn't finish. Sometimes our bed would be on a different wall when he would get home. I spent money I didn't have. I bought things I didn't need. I stayed out with friends all hours of the night. There were clues long before my big crash. I had been on an antidepressant since my late 20s, but my antidepressant Band-Aid wasn't going to cut it anymore. My highs were getting higher and my lows were getting extremely lower. And then I crashed one day. I didn't want to get out of bed. Couldn't get out of bed. My husband put me in the car and took me to a doctor, who then sent me to a psychiatrist, who told me he was as sure I was bipolar as it was raining outside. It was raining. Not today. It took us a while to find the right meds, and I hated my first psychiatrist. I hated him. So I found somebody else. It's really important to me that I like my doctors. People get in doctor-patient relationships, and because the person's a doctor, they feel like they have to stay with that person, and that's not the case. I have to like my doctor. The new guy was smart, and he was ready to go to battle for me. Then for years, I was absolutely fine. I mean, people who knew me knew I was like driven. I was the person who planned everything. I was the type A in our friendships, but you know, I was great. People didn't know anything was wrong. My medicines were fine, and I was smooth sailing. I was a little up sometimes and a little down, but I was doing really great. And then I had an allergic reaction to an antibiotic and broke out into full body hives. And my body also attacked my bipolar meds. It's something that happens rarely, but it does happen. And so my new psychiatrist took me off of everything. We had to start over. And it was the most horrible time in my adult life. It was extremely dark. On a normal day, you wake up, you think about your grocery list, you think about going to Starbucks, you think about how you have to take your dog to the vet, you make appointments for work, you check things off your calendar, you may look forward to vacation or look forward to an event coming up, a night out with your spouse. But when I crashed, it was like a thick, dark curtain just fell on my life. There was no joy and no hope. I didn't have words in my brain to even have a conversation with anybody. My brain was just full of like terror and dread. I was horrifically afraid someone was going to break into my house. I stared into space. I cried all day, every day. The one thing that saved me was that I forced myself into a routine. I got out of bed every day and I read. I took my meds every day. I got up, I read, I took my meds. Sometimes I take a shower, and that sounds so crazy, but if you have mental illness, sometimes taking a shower is like, you need a freaking sticker. You need it's the best day of your life sticker if you took a shower. That it is the most, see, I told you I hit the mic. It is the most mental and physically draining thing you can do some days when you have mental illness, just to take a shower. My husband would come home and be like, oh, you took a shower today, good for you. On better days, I could go get my daughter from school. One day a week, I would go to the used bookstore and I would trade the books that I had read for new books. I fought debilitating anxiety. My body, the way it manifests itself in me is my body shakes from the inside. It's not an outward thing, you can't see it, but my insides are just trembling. And panic attacks would come on without any warning whatsoever and just knock me over. You know how, I don't know if any of you shop at Publix, but they are militant about taking out your groceries. And that stranger forcing themselves on my buggy was enough to send me into a full-on panic attack. And one day I grabbed my buggy out of the man's hands and ran for my car. And I still, when I shop in Publix, had that little panicky feeling, knowing that I'm gonna have to battle for my buggy. Don't touch my buggy. So the struggle is really real. I mean, even on my best days, there's still some little kinks and quirks that I have to work out. New meds were trial and error. One actually made my skin feel like bugs were crawling on me. I had horrible restless leg syndrome. Mental drugs, for some reason, can give you that. I will tell you that Bragg's apple cider vinegar, if you can drink some of that, will help with that, and it was a miracle cure for me. Restless leg can keep you up all night long. It is the most miserable thing. But just side note, my dad says that my grandmother used to wail in her bed. He said she felt like she would wail, but she felt like she was dying, and they used to have to call the doctor to come to the house and give her a shot. On my bad days, I would hug myself so tight because it felt like my insides were going to come undone. Mine's genetic mostly, apparently. Eventually, I found a cocktail. They found a cocktail that worked, and I started to find my own coping skills. Rule number 1, identify all exits when you enter a room. A quick exit if you have to. That is one of my number 1 coping skills. Whenever on the airplane, when they're going your exits, I'm like, yes, I got it. I know where I am. The point is that I was eventually able to put down the books and get back to my life. I jumped back into my log and freelance writing for a huge chunk of time, 3 months I could not write. I started making plans again, and my calendar began to fill up again. And I started my own PR company. You know that bipolar is like the entrepreneur's disease, right? I don't know if any of you know Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm obsessed, but if you watch him for 5 minutes, you're like, that dude is bipolar and he is crazy successful. I can't say it's a blessing, but bipolar has given me the best parts of myself. You can ask my friends, I'm the most excited person you will ever meet. I see the world through child eyes. It's wonderful and big and there for me to explore. I have big ideas and I want to create things. I'm rarely bored and I love like crazy. I tell people overfeeling is my superpower. I can do or find out how to do most anything. I'm brave. I treat bipolar not as who I am, but just like another part of a medical problem. I take my medication religiously. We went on an anniversary trip and we were an hour and a half away and I got there and realized I didn't have my meds back in the car. We're going back home. It's not a negotiation for me. I take them religiously every day. I get plenty of sleep. I sleep 8 hours a night. It is non-negotiable. I'm not a party animal. I cannot stay out and wake up at 6 a.m. I have to get my sleep. And I have a team of doctors and counselors who keep me healthy. I have a psychiatrist, I have an internal medicine doctor, I have a counselor, and then, of course, OB and all that jazz, but I have a really good medical team, and I like all of my doctors, and if for any reason I start not liking my doctor, I will find another one that makes me comfortable. There's no shame in the malfunction of my brain. chemistry. I didn't do it to myself, and it's how I'm made. For better or worse, it's there, and I'm here, and the most that I can do are things like this. I'm starting a conversation, or maybe I'm continuing one that some of you have already started. Mental illness is not a sentence. You can find success despite the diagnosis. You shouldn't be embarrassed. You should talk to someone. You should find a doctor. You should treat yourself with love. And if we're lucky, society will catch up to us. So please share your stories. Thank you.